I definitely, in the early days of living in DC, I spent a lot of time taking trains in the wrong direction and then figuring out like a few stops later that I had gone the wrong way. But thankfully, and I think this is like generally good life advice actually, is people are paying less attention to you than you think they are. So even when I had to get off a train and like get on a train like right across the track going the opposite direction, that feels so mortifying because it's immediately outing you as someone who like doesn't know where they're going and doesn't know the city. But in general, no one is really looking at you that much. So you just have to do what you need to do. For folks that have already moved and might be struggling, I would say be patient with yourself. Moving is really hard, and just taking that first step is momentous in and of itself. But forcing yourself outside of your comfort zone can be really helpful, both in making new friends, but also like confirming where your boundaries are. Like you may push yourself and find out there's something you enjoy that you had no idea about, or you may find out, nope, that was absolutely a hard stop, should not have participated in that kickball league. But now I know, and I don't have to have like a regret about not having done it because I tried to join and didn't love it, but that's fine. I would just say, I know it can be really weird to utilize like UIS connections with people that you don't know personally, but those of us that have kind of signed on to be part of the UIS community in an active way really do want to be helpful. And having those kinds of connections in a new city and a new place can be really important to figuring out your career stuff, figuring out your personal stuff, all of those things that are so important to have personal connections for.
I would say my first piece of advice would be to check with people who you may know who already live there, or through the Alumni Association, people you already know who may live there, to check out what communities or what areas of town you may want to live. Really check with those people, ask around about sort of what the hip, cool neighborhood is. You don't have to live in the hip, cool neighborhood, but you should live near it because it's probably where you'll be spending most of your time anyways. And then just, I think I get a lot of amazing sort of knowledge of the city by getting involved in the city through volunteer work, things like that. You really get to meet people throughout the city. But then also by getting out and walking or running or getting out and seeing the neighborhoods. And I think you become really familiar with the city quickly by doing things like that. I think every city in the country probably has like a local blog or newspaper. In DC, there was a newspaper they'd hand you every morning on the Metro that had a lot of local news in it. There's also local blogs. Those have like events and groups and local politics and news. And that's a good way to really get involved and to know more about your city, is just to read things like that on a as regular basis as possible.
Yeah, I moved to Phoenix and I moved with my girlfriend at the time, but I knew no one. And so it was just me and her. And, I would say my biggest advice is, if you can, spend time with the people that you like at work. Try and, this is awkward and hard, but, one of the things I had to get myself comfortable doing, both in moving to Phoenix, but then kind of moving a lot over the last, decade, is being comfortable telling someone like, I like you. Do you want to be friends? Do you want to have coffee? And it feels really exposing. And sometimes I feel like a vulnerability hangover. But it's really helped me build relationships that have lasted till this day. Housing is such an important piece of the puzzle. Both, can you live with roommates? Are you a person that can handle that? Do you have roommates that maybe you'd like? Because I think that contributes to feeling like you have people to hang out with and go test things out with, because it's really scary to walk into something new all by yourself. So sometimes having a roommate means you have a built-in network, that you all can try things out together. I just kept in regular phone touch with people to an extent. And then I tried to make sure I saw close friends at least once a year in person. So, I was not making a lot of money when I started out. And so would save money to make sure I could get a plane ticket home for Thanksgiving and Christmas, and then would drive down to Springfield and see friends that were either still in school or still living in town. And for my first couple of years, I also just tried to make sure that I was able to like do a trip a year where I could go to New York and see friends on the East Coast, or get to Denver and see friends. So just trying to build in some cushion, some money cushion, to be able to physically go see people. I would do all the tips and tricks that people are talking about, right? Like if you can move in with roommates, if you can, cultivate a community, if you can be willing to tell someone like, I like you, do you want to be my friend? But also pay attention to if you're really unhappy in ways that are structural or systemic, because you don't have to stay in that place. You're not failing if you move somewhere and after a year or two, you're like, I really hate this, leave. That's eventually how I felt in Phoenix. I love Phoenix as a place, but for that period in my life, it just wasn't right for me. So I looked for other jobs, looked for an opportunity to leave, found one, and moved to Philly, which I just fell in love with and really felt like home to me. And things weren't radically different. I didn't have like a huge community of friends in Philly. I had a couple more than I had in Phoenix, but it just was a better fit for me.